Hello, welcome to Story Keepers, an exploration of the histories and experiences of fascinating people in our community. I'm Atola Dawadu. I'm the Assistant Artistic Director for Afrikadey Arts and Culture, and I am your host. Hello, Simone.
Hi.
I'm so excited to have you on this episode. I can't wait to, ask you questions, hear your stories, your motivations and your inspirations. So could you please introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Simone Saunders, and I am a textile artist living in Calgary, Alberta.
And I've seen your work. It's absolutely amazing. We first met when you were doing theater, and I just thought you were so creative. As soon as I met you, I thought, wow, this girl's like a triple threat, especially when I saw your artwork. So, can you talk a little bit about growing up in Calgary as an artist? And, what's your artistic origin? What's your story?
Absolutely. So I'm a Southeast girl in Calgary. I grew up with my parents, my older brother, my twin brother, and my mom. She always nurtured us taking part in extracurricular activities. So growing up, I did all forms of dance. I trained in the Royal Conservatory for piano. I was involved in a lot of competitive sports, mainly volleyball. And really, when I was doing all those things, I discovered a really diverse side to myself, really exploring all these different arenas. And I think that's where my spark and love for theater came about. And so in high school, I really dove into theater. And then upon graduating, I went to the University of Alberta in their classical training program.
Wow.
And then when that was commenced, I really took part in all different regional and independent houses in Alberta. And one of them, like you mentioned, was one of the first Afrocentric theater companies at the time, one of the only ones in Western Canada, called the Tree Collective.
Yes.
And yeah, and so from there, my involvement with that took me to Toronto, where I mentored with Obsidian Theatre Company, which is the Black theater company there. And my time in Toronto, I really fell in love with set design and interior design and took some courses there. And that love for visual arts really started to surmount. And I applied to ACAD then, which is now the Alberta University of the Arts. And I came back home and I studied within the fiber department there with a strong focus in printmaking. And in my final semester at the Alberta University of the Arts, I discovered the tufting gun and I taught myself the skill and I became extremely immersed in it. And it's just become such a passion of mine.
And from working in theater and now to art, what would you say, have you taken some of that and translated it into your art, the art of storytelling? Would you say that that is something that you feel you can really visualize when you're doing your artwork for people to see?
Absolutely. I mean, the primary focus within my textiles are portraiture. And so whether it's in the stance or within the pattern making, or even just the intention of making the piece, I carry a lot of that sense of storytelling and dramaticism within my pieces. So I definitely think that it only helps for me to create.
So after leaving for a while and ultimately returning to Calgary, how do you feel about building the community and the art that you want to see in the city?
You know, when I was heavily involved in the theater scene here, which was probably maybe close to a decade now, there was only this budding notion of colorblind casting.
Mhm.
And it was, you know, it was not prevalent within the theater scene. And so that was the impetus for 5 Black actors and playwrights, women, to come together and to create the Ellipsis Tree Collective. I found that it was really integral for us to create that platform that highlighted Black narratives and particularly gave leading roles to Black actors, especially women. So when
Yeah.
I ventured to Toronto and then back again, but now exploring my visual arts, there was that same sentiment there. I was creating work that was stemming from my identity and exploring my history and my presence as a mixed race woman. And I wanted to tap into my personal landscapes, in particular my Jamaican heritage, and highlighting Black womanhood. And when the uprisings began last year within the Black Lives Matter movement, and I was really taking part in the protests, it became so clear to me that Black culture needed to be amplified in the city. There's a tremendous Black community here, and it is ever growing of Black entrepreneurs and business owners and creatives, and they deserve to be seen. Like, they need to be seen.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Um, Being part of something as a Pan-African organization that's been around for so long, that was always the goal, was to unite and showcase and build
Mhm.
and connect those bridges, build those bridges between communities while showing people the amazing and great things that we have to offer and what we've contributed in the past. And so, I think like in your artwork, there seems to be a deliberate intertwining between past, present, and future in all of your work. So
Yeah,
can you talk a little bit about that?
absolutely. I think that, you know, Black history itself, it's woven into the fabric of our society, and
Yeah.
it definitely is undeniable, you know, and so I picture that. I actually welcome it when I'm intertwining, literally intertwining the threads while I'm tufting. And I myself would not exist without my ancestors. None of us would. And my presence is the affect of the future. And so we are all conduits. We all synchronize between past and future. It's cyclical. And one cannot be, you know, in the presence. We're integral to the future. And I attempt to capture that notion of timelessness within my art.
Right. Yeah. And I think you've captured it so well. Um,
Thank
so for everyone that was born on the prairies, it feels like there's some kind of, there's common traits and characteristics that are uniquely forged in this part of the world um, by the landscapes maybe, or even just the history. Do you feel that? And, how has the history of this place contributed to the making of who you are and your art?
Mhm. I mean, this place I call home. You know, I am a second generation to my mother's side, but first generation Canadian to my father's side. And so I could just be so grateful to call Turtle Island home. And more so in just recognizing the majesty that is here, especially the Rocky Mountains that just, you know, illuminate on the
Yeah.
horizon. And it's just such a gift to journey there and to breathe in that fresh air and to feel so infinitesimal within those giants. And, you know, I really reflect on the quality family time that I've spent there in those healing spaces within nature. And, you know, the mountains, the vastness of the prairie sky, the big open Alberta prairies. It's just, it all it all fuels my craftivism. It brings a sense of calm that allows me to create.
Hmm. Hmm. And when you're creating, or do you usually just have an idea what you feel like you want to create, or does it just come to you, or do you just you know you just get in front of a canvas and you just go with it? How do you usually come up with your creations? Like, do you ever come up with something on a whim, or do you get up and say, today I'm going to paint this, or I'm just going to go to my canvas and see what happens?
Mm. No, usually I'm very inspired by something. So whether it's through literature or even just being present with current events and ideologies, and just bringing a lot of my past, like theater, like we were discussing, and different passions I have, like my love for the Art Nouveau style, and I kind of, I just shamelessly take from all these things that inspire me, and usually I start with collage. So whether it's literally with paper cutting and
Right.
putting things together, or on a digital lens, um, I sometimes take a prominent woman, Black woman within our society. I've done Serena Williams, Alicia Keys, Nina Simone, and then I transform them and take different inspirations into that. But oftentimes, um, they're literally Black female bodies that just exude this strength and resilience to me. And then from there, I will do the collage, and then I'll create it on the canvas.
Many of your portraits are centered on Black figures and personalities, as you just mentioned before, both real and imagined, um, who look directly at the viewer. Can you talk about that? Talk about the gaze and how you're shifting the power and the dynamic of between the person and the portrait and the viewer.
Black womanhood is the foundation of my practice, and it's important for me to highlight strength, resiliency, pride, beauty, and joy that resides in being a Black woman. And for me, I start each piece with the eyes, just in order to really capture that gaze. And Black womanhood is necessary and it's integral to my existence. So I want that presence to beam through the portraits. I don't want my subjects to come across as diminutive or demure or avoiding eye contact with the viewer. It's really important that they invite the viewer in and command the space that they're in to shine, and most importantly, to be seen.
Yeah, I I think that the Black woman is very strong because it means so many different things. You know, when you see a portrait of a Black woman, the story that comes before she was even born, that is in her and what she stands for and the things that she's had to go through that she carries with her. I think in portrait, it's so meaningful and it speaks volumes.
Yes, absolutely. You know, and that notion, that strength of Black women is just, it's in so many songs, from Nina Simone, from Queen Latifah, all of these forces that really unite this sisterhood. And I think that it's important to carry on that message.
Yes. And, you know, from the perspective of Black history, how does acknowledging and exploring our history help invent the future?
Hmm. I think that honoring our past really allows us to pave the way to a bright future, to recognize the struggle of a people, but also to reveal a beauty and strength that resides there.
Mhm.
And, Black history continues within every passing moment, moments that we've seen and witnessed even within the last year.
Mhm.
And so it's really important in this time to amplify Black voices, to be seen and to be heard. I think that our future depends on it.
Yeah, yes. Um, and I would really like to ask you about um, yourself. You know, how do you feel about your contribution to art as a Black woman and what you've done and people's reaction to your pieces?
Mhm.
You know, what does that do for you? And what do you think that that's doing for them, whether they're part of the Black community or outside of it?
Mhm. I think, when I started to discover tufting and when I started to create these portraits, it was for me. It really was an exploration of my identity and of my history at first. So it was more of an insular focus. and I put it out into the world, I didn't realize the reaction and the impact that it would have on others. And so the reception that I've received from it has been, it's been beautiful. And it really just drives me to keep creating. And I mean, I have the freedom and the autonomy to be inspired by so many different things and to be a part of this community. And being at those protests, realizing what a large Black community we have here. I'm sure you've discovered that. Afrikadey knows you've always been tapping into that. And it's really important for us all to lift one another up, and it starts here, and then from there, it has a ripple effect everywhere. And
Yeah.
so it really is important for our voices to be heard.
There's a lot of young Black girls out there that want to be writers, want to be in theater, want to be, artists of some kind, but are feeling the pressure of, maybe they have to be a scientist or a doctor or a lawyer, and they don't realize how much the arts contribute to the world. And what would you say to some of those young Black girls who are looking at your pieces in awe and want to, do what you do? What would you say to the parents to kind of help, encourage that, so that they will feel confident enough to just put their artwork out and be happy about it? And it's, like you said, it was more for you,
Mm-hmm.
but it was more for you, and look what you've done with it.
Mm-hmm. And I think, considering the parents, it's not, even more so than nurturing it, it's not to squish that joy, not to pour water on that fire if they see that their child is creating, and to really encourage them to explore different materials, even considering the traditions of fine art that is painting and drawing and sculpture, to really explore what speaks to them, because there's a tactility with fiber that I wouldn't have discovered unless I was just fearless. Even, going back to school, going back to ACAD in my early 30s, it was a risk, but you really have to nurture that independence in your child and let them know that art speaks volumes. And even considering this time within the pandemic, within the Black Lives Matter movement, not just literature and news outlets are going to be capturing this time. Artists play a significant role in that as well.
Yes, they do, and always have.
Always have, exactly.
How has social media played a role in your artwork, getting it out to the world, it being seen, and what's transpired since it's been readily available on social media?
I hate to admit it, but social media has really played a big part, especially within the past year. When the pandemic hit, that was within my final semester of graduating. So I didn't even get the convocation. And so I really was missing that connection with my peers and my instructors. And so turning to social media, it was absolutely integral for me to share my work and to share my processes and to really put out there what I was working on. And from there, in particular, one of my pieces just got into the spiral of Instagram, and to the point where even Instagram reposted it. And so there was connections with my gallerist in New York who discovered me on Instagram. So I think that really putting myself out there was and is a benefit in that regard.
Definitely. I think it has changed the landscape for so many things, whether you're modeling, whether you're a musician, a filmmaker, a visual artist. I mean, social media has just transcended into, like, you can basically be your own agent until you find an agent, and really people around the world can see your stuff. And then you can engage with all those people, and those people can reach out to you and, have a better understanding and really ask the questions that they want about your work. But the fact that they can see it, and then it just takes off from there, and they're amazed by it. Somebody across the world, I think that just That's
And
amazing.
that connection, yes, that connection blows me away, is that, you know, you use a hashtag and your discovery and your sense of connection with people from all over the world, and that sense of immediacy. I mean, yeah, it's pretty incredible. I definitely hope that my work continues to inspire people, because, you know, I'm just getting started with this tufting gun, so it's not going to
Yeah,
stop anytime soon.
yeah, that's excellent. Yes. Um, I want to thank you for joining us today. And, um, I think that, when people watch this, they're going to have a better understanding of what inspires you, and they'll definitely come and look at your work. I mean, people are looking at it already in droves. But you have inspired so many people, and especially Black women, and especially women that want to be artists, but they don't know where to start, and they're shy, and they don't really know how to get out there. I think that the inspiration that you have put out there is just it's amazing, and I hope you continue. I can't wait to see what you create in the future. You're always tuning out things that are so beautiful, and I'm so glad that I've had the opportunity to be a part of what you've done in theater, and now this. So I'm so glad that you came to share with us, and I hope to see more of your work and firsthand. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for those kind words and for having me. It's, you know, it's always wonderful speaking with you and really coming together and sharing, you know, what we're feeling and what we're doing. And thank you for giving me that platform.
Yes, anytime.